You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's After Show.
Hey there!
Yo.
Almost Human fans, you know what time it is. Welcome. Welcome to the Almost Human podcast here on AfterBuzz TV. I'm Matt Lieberman. Joining me on the panel this week, we got the return of Mr. Zach Wilson. Hello.
Hey, Matt. I'm back, and I am glad to report my parents are not synthetics.
Fantastic. Mr. Ryan Hooks.
Yo, Ryan Hooks here, dodging a bullet on synthetic parents.
Yes.
Let's rock and roll.
Big old future bullet. Megan Salinas unfortunately cannot join us tonight. She will be back in 2 weeks when we move up our time slot. Just a little scheduling snafu. But this is episode 104, The Bends. Another great episode, another great outing. We got to see a lot of Rudy this week. We got a Benito Martinez guest star, and I love Benito Martinez ever since The Shield. A lot of fun. We got to see another side of future crime and more wisecracking from our two favorite detectives.
Just so much wisecracking from everybody on the show.
Right? There were jokes. It was packed with jokes.
It was nonstop.
Yeah. Which, like, I'm wondering if that was always the intention, or if that was a note from the network, like, this seems too dour, more jokes.
It's Fox. We need to make it funny.
Yeah, and we can pair it with New Girl. That's not what they did. But
Thank God.
we're gonna
Crossover
get more
special.
Yeah. Oh, I would watch that. they either they jump through a portal, or Jess and Nick from New Girl jump through
It's
a
the
portal.
future Nick. We meet future
I've actually
Nick.
always
true.
thought that Zooey Deschanel was a robot anyway, so I feel like
What fueled that fire?
because she always talks like this, and her body movement is always like this, and she's always like this.
That's neither of those are true.
We discussed the Skins episode 2 weeks ago. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that. We will get into this sort of discussion a little bit later on in the show. I want to talk. My official title for this episode is Rudy's Day Out. We've unleashed Rudy on the world just like Baby's Day Out, and he's just toddling along, being silly and trying not to get killed. So we open on him getting shot in this moment of panic. 24 hours earlier, we show up on this cop who used to be a friend. Now that he's dead.
Haven't seen him in a
Kennex.
few years. Probably before his accident.
Yeah, like it was like 5 years or 7 years, something like that. 5 years. And he is trying to make an undercover bust, make a connection to the Bishop, who's this big drug distributor. And this new drug has hit the streets. It's called the Bends, and apparently it's the bomb.
What?
Yes.
They never really go into what the Bends does to you.
Yeah, they just say it's highly addictive.
It's highly addictive, and it kills you pretty fast. I guess because nobody knows how much is an overdose.
That's true, because it's new. And I wonder what it was like when certain drugs like came into being. How did people find out how much was too much? And I imagine there was just a rash of deaths until people were like, hey man, only a gram is too much.
That's good. Call it right there.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen.
bring it back.
Come on. You can have fun here. But
no more than a gram of fun.
No more than a gram of fun. We don't want to overdose on fun, especially
only
3 minutes, 49 seconds into the
You got to work
podcast.
your way up, slowly pace yourself up to have more grams of fun.
Exactly. You can have more fun, but only after you've built up a tolerance to fun. Which honestly is a parable for life. We build up a tolerance for fun, and it requires larger bursts of fun.
We've gotten really deep here.
I know, and we could fall down this fun hole all day long. Instead, we're going to go back and talk about this...
Rudy's Day Out.
Yes, Rudy's Day Out, the Bends, made from algae, and this guy brings a cook, and the cook gets shot, and they pull his subcutaneous wire out of his stomach, straight out of the Matrix. Except, instead, it was a wire. I mean, it was like a creature thing, but it was a wire from the machines, essentially.
Well,
In his belly.
I don't think it was alive. It was just like a thing. It was inside of him.
Well, in this
hidden
show,
under the skin.
but like it looked like a squiddy thing in the Matrix. But
So
this
drop
is
it in your belly button.
yeah, you drop it in your belly button and it squirms inside.
I'll give you that.
Subcutaneous wire. That's what happens. So they need someone who's skilled enough with chemistry to make it look like they know how to produce the bends from this algae. And Kennex immediately gets the bright idea.
Brilliant.
Let's include Rudy, who's like, he's got this like deer in headlights thing of like, he's excited and it's almost too good to be true. He's not ready to like get too excited until he realizes this is really happening, and then he just gets right into it, right into the thick of it. He's like, yes, I will do it.
Well,
And I want to wear a disguise.
I want to wear a disguise, something European.
Yeah, he's been thinking about this for a while.
Oh, yeah.
He's so
They had that little
excited.
image where he's looking at himself and like his
And
outfit changes.
He's in
and
like a James Bond tux,
Yep.
and he's like so pumped, and he's like, this is a dream come true. And I'm sure this is what got him into working with the police department in the first place. Like, someday,
I'm gonna go undercover.
I'm gonna go undercover. I'm gonna be a hero, and he probably looks up to Kennex so much, and has, since long before the accident, of like, someday I'm gonna save people and shoot weapons and be great.
Oh, absolutely. But here's the thing. I still don't know what Rudy does.
Yeah.
Like, what is his department, his position? Where is that little, like, dirt hole office?
He's funded on the back end, I think.
I thought that we were gonna get those little gems uncovered this week, but apparently that's not the case. He's bot maintenance guy. He handles all the Android stuff for the department and all of their tech and chemistry stuff. And
Jack of all trades.
Right, but I don't think he is formally. I don't think he's formally part of the department. But at the same time, could they get him to go undercover if he wasn't part of the department?
They could, but I assume if they just instantly like, we're going to put him in the field and throw this wiry guy who has no field experience out there, he is a member of the police
He's like
department.
the IT guy.
Yeah, he just doesn't. There's just no room for him at the police station offices because they're cramped. They've got too
He's
much
got to
stuff
have space to
going on.
work, to build the robots.
Right,
like,
he
fix
needs
things, tools.
darkness to concentrate. Dankness. He needs puddles to clean up on breaks and
Makes
stuff
everyone
like that.
feel a little weird. So,
Oh,
Rudy,
totally.
there's your office over
Here's
there.
your little office, Rudy, and he was probably like a kid in a candy store. And that's the thing. He has a very dirty, dank office with stunningly clean Erlenmeyer flasks, apparently. He has a big problem with the cleanliness of the drug lord
The
lab.
Lord. Yeah, he's going to make some changes.
Yeah, he's going to make some changes when he gets hired.
Well, if Breaking Bad taught me anything, it's that you have to have perfectly clean and sanitized lab equipment if you're going to make drugs.
It's true. And there were a lot of references to like other things. And I know like you can have an episode about drugs and not have it's not referencing Breaking Bad. But you get into like almost a cooking montage, and you can't help but think
and
about
the percentage of how right they are, and you
Right.
think about
Yeah.
how pure
The purity.
Lydia, is it?
it. Yeah, Lydia. No, Rudy got it 95% pure. Not quite Heisenberg levels, but still very respectable.
On his second try.
On his second try
And
ever.
the fedora as well. I mean,
Yes, the fedora instead of the Heisenberg pork pie hat. Agreed. There was a lot. Yeah, Zach brought his hat with him today, in homage to Rudy's hat.
I was going to leave it at home, but then they kept making all these hat puns and jokes, and it was too much fun for me.
I know.
Had to bring
Oh, too much fun. You OD'd on fun. Bad Wilson.
bring it back.
Bringing it back. So they're about to throw him into the field. Detective Paul, who we've known previously as a douchebag comet guy. Douchebag comet
If you look
detective.
at my notes right here, put Detective D-Bag Paul.
Great. That's good.
You're rubbing off on me.
Yes, as I should be. I'm a very big personality.
But Detective D-Bag is actually, like, he's kind of a good guy for a little bit in this one.
yeah, well, I mean, he can have an attitude problem and still be on the side of right. He's still a cop. He's not necessarily dirty. He's just a D-bag. Like I'm sure a lot of people consider Kennex to be a D-bag. He's gruff. He does whatever he wants without thinking about other people. He cracks jokes at people's expense. And, he kind of let Rudy loose on this mission and then didn't want to hang out with him at McQuaid's later. He's not very considerate.
Take
Well,
him out, celebratory beer.
We took out our anger on D-Bag Cop on his MX.
That's true.
He just got it
Which
right
was
through the eye.
awesome, right through the eye, and yet it was still apparently fully functional the androids do not have their power source or anything that it takes for them to function in their head, apparently.
Well, but this is just like a continuity thing. Because last week, Dorian was going to die if he got shot in the head. I'm trying to figure out how you can kill...
Well, that was an MX versus a DRN. Completely different design, Zach.
Okay, fair enough.
Come on, Zach. They're
enough.
completely different.
I would like to see very soon with the DRN where they talked about the unpredictable emotions, and that's why they were taken off the market. I'm waiting for some unpredictable emotions to go down.
Well, we met our first other DRN to like.
He wasn't a DRN. He was a VX, not an MX.
I missed it.
He was a VX, and the VX Dorian fight I thought was pretty great because it was the first time we ever saw two androids throw down, and the VX was kind of a beast.
Right.
Like he was like super strong and punching through stuff, and he grabbed a pipe and he's swinging it, and it was rad. I loved seeing two androids scrap for a solid 2 minutes
to the death.
I am wondering what it really takes to kill one of these, though. Like
you have to rip its head off, apparently.
I guess.
Hook it up to some chains.
But why put all in the head? That seems too obvious. Like,
but you don't put all in the head because the MX was perfectly working even though you knocked out its eye. So, I don't know. I mean, you saw like the long wires and cables coming out of the head when the body fell off.
Spines hanging down.
Yeah, so I'm sure that one of those is connected to the power source, and if it's disconnected, then it's just turned off.
There you go.
Yeah, we can say that.
There we go.
We can say that. But I'm sure that different designs of androids have different permutations of the innards. I think Dorian potentially has more his like memory and potentially some of it, maybe his power source in his head versus the MXs who maybe have it kind of in the torso, somewhere that can be more heavily armored, that isn't likely to get tons of damage. You know,
I'm curious what kind of robot that Rudy was working on. He had the little head that was like...
That was just the head talking.
Yeah.
It was a wise-ass little head.
Wise-ass little head.
I mean, how is he alive with just the head, but the other guy, the spine get ripped off?
I know. Well, I want to talk about references, and we might as well just like jump into it now. There was so much like just Blade Runner, Total Recall, RoboCop, Breaking Bad, all over this episode. And there was a shot where I'm like, literally, I think they took this shot directly from Blade Runner. It's like on the street, and someone's walking by with the lit up umbrella with the glow stick middle.
Oh, that's right.
The very opening scene. When he's at the restaurant.
The crane
the
down.
The ramen noodle thing.
Crane down through the rain. The fact that he goes and he eats noodles, and he mentioned noodles last week. And, I think this show, it takes a lot from other properties, but it wears its references on its sleeve because it knows that a large part of its audience is very familiar with these kinds of stories and loves those stories. And they want to say, hey, man, we're right there with you. We think this is cool, too.
We like Die Hard.
We love Die Hard.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah.
As long as they want to keep throwing, like, the almost human version of all of these sci-fi epics.
Sure, as long as we continue to build the almost human universe and build our characters so that we're not just having movie remakes every week. Although, granted, I would rather just have Hollywood remake a lot of these movies on Almost Human rather than do
a 2.5-hour movie of
RoboCop,
Blade Runner.
Right. I don't want to see the new RoboCop necessarily. Although, the trailer wasn't horrible. We're not going to get into this here. This is not the forum.
This is not the forum.
Absolutely not. But yeah, tons of references this week. Even McQuaid's, which is, to me, stood out as a reference to Douglas Quaid from Total Recall. And the talking head, to me, was his disguise in Total Recall. And the head that stops working and he takes it off and then he throws it. And she's like, goodbye, or whatever. And then it explodes.
I think, too, with the Bishop, very much Inspector Gadget, the Dr. Claw. Nobody ever sees him.
Not the real Claw.
Somebody else.
Exactly.
I mean, you can see the writers are having fun, and that's what makes these episodes fun to watch, because they're throwing this stuff in not as a way that they're stealing anything, but just because these are things they love, and so they're putting it, and it makes a better episode at the end of the day.
No, it's clear that there's passion in this show, passion behind building a world, which connects to Rudy's great speech about passion. Detective Paul says earlier in the episode, he's like, the truth is your friend. Especially when you're lying, tell lies that are as close to the truth as possible because it's easier to remember. And he's caught almost in a lie, and he needs to kind of bail himself out and explain to Benito Martinez why he's great at what he does and why he loves what he does. And he starts talking about science and more specifically androids, and talking about the love that he has for it and the passion that he has in his work, and that's what makes him such a great technician and such a great cook. And it was a great peek inside who he really is, because we haven't really gotten anything yet. The reason why he works in a dank hole for cops that don't appreciate him is because he loves this work. He has such a deep passion for building androids and taking care of them.
It was a great speech, and it actually, by the end of the episode, I feel like I now know Rudy a little bit better than I think almost any other character on the show.
I would agree.
I know Kennex's storyline, but I don't really know a lot about who he is, but I know what drives Rudy now. I know what makes him who he is, and that was what made that so great. But we can only hope that we get more of that from the other characters.
When they first announced the show, I was like, oh, cool, Carl Urban in a cop show. Like, I like Carl Urban, and I want to see more with him. And then I was like, oh, hey, Mackenzie Crook is in this, like, even better. So now it's like just building on something that's already cool. And then, like, we get these moments where we're like getting into his deep personality and his soul, and well done.
Well done. Also of note, so like when I watch these shows, usually with the subtitles on, just with the closed captioning on, just to catch everything, because we do these shows, and you know, no one can be perfect, but fans expect that when we do these shows that we're at least as smart as they are.
At least.
So there are little things that are in the closed captioning that are not heard in the dialogue. Like things that I don't know if they were in the script, but then were deleted from the final cut, or just were never recorded, or something like that. So there's random things, like when Dorian and Kennex are investigating the cabin, and Dorian calls him a friend. When Kennex is like, you need to put protection out on this guy's wife, and he's like, you got it, friend. And Kennex says, oh, we're friends now. He kind of mutters it. And then he, in the closed captioning, it also says, I wish I was still in my coma. And I'm like, what? Jesus. Yeah. And I'm just like, who wrote that line? Was that supposed to be in the show? And they were like, you know what? This is too dark. Take this out. But don't tell the closed caption guys. Or were they watching the scene with just the closed caption and be like, you know what? I don't think people can tell exactly what he's feeling. Let me embellish a little bit.
That's bizarre. It doesn't even sound in place, that line.
It's just so strange to me. And there were a few other instances, and I should have written them down, but I didn't. And everyone was sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that moment, though, before we get off of it, I actually really loved that exchange of, like, now we're friends, because it goes a little bit more back to the building of Kennex's fear, like, or sort of like prejudice, thank you, against synthetics and androids. And it's great to see. I personally wanted to see more of that drama. I thought that they've kind of dove into them getting along a little bit too fast.
That's what we talked about last week.
Yeah, Dorian's a little bit. I heard you guys were talking about.
If you tuned in our AfterBuzz Season 1, Episode 3 last week,
yes,
feel free.
I thought I was out of town, but I wanted to give my 2 cents that I wanted that to be drawn out more. Like, I want to build towards the moment that we got in, say, iRobot, where Will Smith's character suddenly calls him someone instead of something, and that's like a big step. But by the second episode, we're already they're all kind of buddy-buddy.
But here's the thing that I'll say to that, and I do agree with you to a point, but last week when they were in this situation in the building, in our Die Hard episode, I didn't really see Kennex giving the level of warmth that Dorian is. Dorian is treating Kennex like a friend, and I think it's, if an android can have a strategy of how to make a friend, it's just sort of like, I'm going to maintain my level of sunniness, and I'm going to continue to keep the door open and try to let you in, because eventually you will walk through it. And also because you're kind of an ass doesn't mean that I have to be. And instead, I'm just going to have all the quips and have lots of fun and just continue to take you down a peg because you make it that easy. And I'm going to do it until you eventually just like warm up to me because I've saved your life a bunch of times.
Yeah, and that's great. It's a great dynamic that they're building. I'm seeing it building towards something where there's gonna be some point towards the end of the season, a moment where he has to pick between saving Dorian, maybe saving somebody else,
right?
And he really has to think about this is now a person, not a robot.
I don't think Kennex is there yet, not by a long shot. He's begrudgingly accepting Dorian as his partner, as someone that he spends a lot of time with, who he can crack jokes with and even enjoy from time to time, but he refuses to acquiesce on any level to Dorian. I'm eating here. I'm going to do whatever I want. You can screw with me, but I'm not going to change my life for you because you're a thing. He has yet to have that moment where he's accepted Dorian as a person. He accepts him as a good partner and as a good cop, but he has yet to accept him as a person. I think will take time.
I feel like that's why they wrote in the friend line, because it's like, oh, it was too much last week, so they had to pull it back. Like, oh, well, we're not friends yet.
Yeah, you made me eat a slug, dude.
Yeah, can we talk about the slug for a moment?
Please.
That made me, it was basically like, it's CGI worse than MSG. So it's like this weird little CGI slug that he just ate, and it was the most random little bit to throw in there.
It's a delicacy in sushi restaurants in 2048.
Yeah, man, omakase, robo makase. We can do that. We're gonna step away from it though before it just gets sad, because that was not a good joke. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the impact of drugs in the future. We kind of get like a little glimpse into it in this episode. We know that crime is basically unchecked, and that we now have these chemical drugs that are so powerful and so potent that we can't stop their flow or their trade. It's pretty scary. I just wanted your thoughts on that.
It's really interesting, especially with the source that this comes from. It's an algae that they then have to distill. It kind of builds on the idea, like, if you boil down where meth comes from, it comes from just household products that you can just buy in a store, that you can't really regulate the products themselves. You have to regulate this new form of drug. And what I really love is like the opening line from the intro: evolving technologies can no longer be regulated. And it kind of plays to that, like, in the future, like when people can do almost anything at home, when you can 3D print a gun at home and the bullets, where do you draw the line? Like, how do you regulate stuff that's changing every day?
Yeah, you can't. And it's why our police force is so beleaguered, and they're always one step behind. This cop who got killed, he realized that, I don't know if he even realized that his boss was the one in charge of this whole operation. For a second, I thought maybe that he did, or he had some suspicion, because he didn't register this operation on the books. It wasn't an official undercover investigation. He was just doing it on his off hours. And I know he was getting mocked for that in the department. I don't know if you guys remember.
Do you think that's true, or do you think that Burris covered it up?
I think Barros... I don't know that he knew that Barros was the bishop, because he thought that the first guy, the bald guy, was the bishop. Maxwell was the bishop.
But if Barros is, well, he is the kingpin.
Yeah.
So then once Cooper dies, he just says, no, there was no undercover investigation. I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you think he covered it up?
Oh, that is interesting. I hadn't even thought that far.
If Cooper's getting too close, Barros sends him, all right, we're going to send you in here undercover, and then it just goes bad, and all dirty points are cleaned up.
Yeah, there you go. That is an interesting theory.
I remember when he walked on screen, though, I actually wrote down, I don't trust Barros.
That's probably a good,
he was just too nice for having a dead cop on his hands.
Right? You'd think he'd be more distressed and more like, we got to get these guys.
He's my man. I need to cover him up. Take care of him. More like Kennex was.
Yeah, exactly. You worked together for years. It's like, I want to find these killers. I want to find them now. Where are your best cops? That one, yeah. Get me the gruff one and his partner, the funny one.
To get his hands dirty.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just really quickly going to mention iTunes. Folks, thanks so much to everybody who's reached out to us on YouTube, on iTunes, on Twitter. You kick so much butt. Legitimately, and I don't know if I mentioned this last week. If I did, I'm going to mention it again, because it's legitimately the nicest thing that anyone has ever written about me, ever. And it's an iTunes comment. I don't remember who left it. I'm sorry. But it was the first person who ever commented on our show, and he said, "Is it wrong that I get as excited about a new Matt Lieberman podcast as I do about a new great show?" And legitimately, I coasted on the warmth of that. Like, I was able to heat the home of my soul for a solid week.
And this week too, apparently.
And this week too, because I probably mentioned it last week. But it's so nice.
But it's all about the iTunes.
It is about the iTunes
and
the Twitter and the YouTube. Because here's the thing, folks. Your participation with our podcast is what keeps us going. We do this for free. And, AfterBuzz TV puts out 60 shows a week.
For the joy of entertaining you.
50 and 60 shows a week for free content for you, amazing podcasts for every show you could possibly want to see a podcast for. And the thing that keeps us searchable and makes our bosses happy is you commenting on the iTunes, slapping us with a 5-star rating, making the show more searchable. It helps us so much. And hearing your YouTube comments, hearing your theories, tweeting them at us makes us so, so happy. Please continue to do so. I just want to give a couple of shout outs to folks who reached out to us on iTunes. Almost by CMPTR Deb. Computer Deb. What up, Computer Deb? Enjoy your podcast. I like that the show is set in 2048 but still recognizable. I wouldn't be lost if I found myself there. Keep up the good buzz. You rock. Go you.
You rock.
Love this podcast from Classic R&B Lover. I love it. Matt is so awesome. Classic
Matt's
R&B Lover.
You guys.
Classic R&B Lover. You're making me blush. I tuned in when I heard he was doing it. Was initially iffy on the show, but I like it and love the recap. You rock. Go you.
Thank you.
Fun to listen to by DGNVZ. I listened to the last two latest podcasts and absolutely entertained. Thanks for the laughs and making my head bob and nod while listening to you guys on my commute. You rock. Go you. Please, folks, reach out to us. Let us know that you're loving the podcast.
Our heads are bobbing while we're reading your comments.
It's true.
Absolutely.
They bob
love.
They bob up and down out of love. And I'm going to stop talking about iTunes now because that was like a solid 2 minutes of plug-in. Folks, there's something that I noticed this week about this show, and I want to hear Ryan and Zach's opinions on it, and I want to hear yours as well, because it's like, it's not a theory per se, but it's just noticing a pattern. And I kind of feel like this show isn't a cop show at all. It's a comedy. It's an hour-long comedy about robot cops in the future, because I have never seen a cop show with repeated fart gags that made me laugh really hard, mostly because I've never seen a cop show with a fart gag before. But this episode was just packed with jokes. Like, there were deaths and everything and a lot of action, but tons of jokes.
I think we talked about it earlier for a minute. Nonstop.
Nonstop comedy. And it's like, to me, it plays up the absurdity of the inherent in the premise of this show, of just like, we've reached a place where all policemen are required to walk around with a robot because it's that dangerous. And that's kind of like inherently a bit of a ridiculous world. And there's a lot of humor week to week, but this week it just felt like we're just swinging for the fences with the funny. And I'm wondering, like, did someone at the network panic that this show was going to be too dark? Was this always the plan? I mean, Fringe, J.H. Wyman's last show, had plenty of humor in it, and I love that show to death, and it would always make me laugh, but it never felt like the focus, with the exception of like a few episodes, and I just want your take.
I think it's something. They've introduced this episode like fairly early on in the show as a sort of proof that it can do this, but it's not going to. I don't think it's going to all the time. Like, if you look at the same time, you have like a kid dies on screen from an OD halfway through.
That's true.
And last week
we
had
see that
hostages
on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
being shot, and then like it's still got plenty of darkness in there.
Yeah.
But I think it's great that they can find that balance where I can be laughing hysterically 1 minute at an oddly placed fart gag, and then be like, "Oh, that's not."
And then the deep reaches of Mackenzie Crook's soul are pouring out on screen.
Exactly, and just what a great performance this week. I absolutely loved him, and you're right. I feel like what they're going for in tone is they're reaching back to kind of like the gritty buddy cop like action comedies of the 80s, and like,
absolutely,
maybe a toned down Lethal Weapon set 40, like, 60 years in the future, kind of. Like, I can see that comparison there.
I think it gives them an opportunity to leave their options open, where they can go with different characters and where they can go with the show. Because, with cop dramas, you can kind of just keep going every episode, and it can be different, and there's just a little bit of backstory that will build each week. But they don't have to build too much, but then they can just have a totally random event or plot, which is going to keep audience watching.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be like, oh, well, this is going to happen, then the show ends. They can kind of go wherever. So it's going to give them a lot of options, I think, with writing, and then it's going to keep people interested. Because, who doesn't love a good fart joke?
A
lot of people.
I do.
Yeah.
Who watches this kind of show that doesn't love a good fart joke?
I guess.
That's a good point.
I guess.
Males 18 to 49,
I know, but like there are good fart jokes and bad fart jokes. The juxtaposition of a fart joke on this show made it funny. On its own, it wasn't the greatest, but like the fact that it was here just made me laugh. Very serious situation.
Hard. He was undercover.
Yeah, we saw him bleeding out in the first part of the episode. Within the first minute, he's shot and he's bleeding, and then just like 6 to 8 hours earlier, he was farting in his office.
But it's great because you almost like the comedy almost helped you forget about that scene, because I had forgotten until it came back, until that moment where they came into the lab. It's like, oh yeah, that's where we've been building to this whole time. But so I like the comedy aspect. I do hope they go a little bit more serialized as we move forward.
Sure.
I was disappointed not to see more build towards what we're dealing with, the syndicate and the ex-girlfriend, all these questions that we've gotten into. It wasn't a factor at all in this episode.
Yeah.
And I want to see it. It's been very, very episodic. I'd like to see more of that serialized week to week.
I imagine that we're going to get more of those answers soon, because they can't coast on concept alone for that long. And I imagine within the next 3 episodes, we're going to start seeing more action on that front. I do agree with you. I want to see more of it. But it kind of touches on this idea of police corruption that we got back in the pilot, where Captain Maldonado was talking about how she didn't trust anyone in the department because she felt there were people from In Syndicate, as I can't remember if it was someone on YouTube or one of my Twitter followers. I think it was one of my Twitter followers reminded me this week or last week. It's In Syndicate, not The Syndicate, which is what we were saying last week. So thank you for that. She was saying that there are people in the department who are definitely part of In Syndicate, and that corruption is rampant. So we saw more of that corruption this week.
I actually saw somewhere too online that they were talking about the episodes are actually being aired out of order.
Are they really?
Like, they're not, the way they were filmed is not how they're showing them. So that's part of the reason I think we're getting this weird episodic feel, because if the storyline was driven and written to go from A to B, and they're going from A to J to C to, and then back.
And that could also explain why they felt closer last week than it would have been organically. Is that was a strong episode, and rather than air it when it was supposed to, they
episode
aired it
7 maybe.
Yeah, they aired it as episode 3, and it was at Langley M. Neely who told me about In Syndicate. Thank you, Langley M. Neely. He loves the show. We love you.
Thank you we appreciate it when you guys point out what we are stepping over.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? I feel like there's some sort of like fear of correcting people in power, and as long as no one's rude about it, we want to be corrected because we want to be doing our jobs.
And then we want to talk about you on the show.
And we want to give you a shout out on the show because you rock. Go you.
Yeah.
Yes. So. Do you know if there was an article or something specific about this airing out of ordered fiasco?
There was a comment on it on one of the blogs for people that review the show.
Okay.
And then there was an article, a link I was trying to get to, but then I couldn't get it to load.
Okay. Well, we're going to find that this week, and we'll tweet it out. So
check it out.
Stay tuned to that. Be sure to pay attention to our Twitter feeds so we can drop stuff about the show. I watched on Hulu Plus. I didn't get to see scenes from next week. Did either of you guys?
Next week's going to be interesting. They're introducing somebody who is apparently psychic via some kind of futuristic procedure called the cerebellix procedure.
What? Okay, yes. We're going to have to talk about this.
And more.
Oh, there is.
Valerie finally gets to leave the lab in the office.
What?
Minka Kelly, you're in trouble this week.
Oh my God, Agent Stahl.
Yep.
She gets to leave. Okay, we got to go into predictions about this. We got faked out.
Now, your AfterBuzz
Bring it back.
TV
Let me go for it.
predictions.
Sweet. Okay, so we got some kind of crazy psychic. We got Agent Stahl, Detective Stahl finally leaving the police station, leaving headquarters. So I assume we're going to get some kind of character traits for her next week other than being attractive and available.
Well, she doesn't just leave. Spoilers if you don't want to
What
know
are
about next
predictions?
week.
It's safe.
She looks like she gets kidnapped.
Oh,
Like she gets
snap.
captured at some point, so we're going to have to go save her.
Okay, we're going to have to go save her. I'm hoping that she saves herself and that Kennex gets there just in time because we need kick-ass chicks on this show. I don't want her to be a damsel.
Yes.
She's a detective. She should be good at her job, and I'm sure that she is. And, you know, J.H. Wyman wrote for Fringe, and Olivia Dunham was just such a great, awesome, kick-ass heroine. So I imagine we're going to get some of that. I'm very, very curious about this Cerebellix program. Is that
Cerebellix procedure. It sounds like
Cerebellix
they do whatever kind of surgery or whatever they do, and it heightens. They said it heightens the senses to a point where I guess she can talk to dead people, is what she said.
Jesus!
I talks to dead people all the time, and she does that classic move where she talks to somebody who just died, and they tell her who killed them, but that person was in a courtroom with Maldonado at the time of the murder. So what does that mean?
Ooh.
There's a lot going to happen. That's a lot.
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to or hoping that something future develops with Valerie and our Kennex here. Some sort of love story, perhaps.
I mean, it was hinted at.
It was hinted at in the second episode, and
By hinted, you mean shown on
shoved into your face.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, right here it is.
Hey, you want a love story? We got a love
But
story.
I think that it would be
Female
good-
audience, don't leave.
If she saves herself just in time, then I think Kennex is going to develop some kind of respect for her and maybe see like, oh, hey, she's not a,
Well, he has respect
a
for
little
her.
bit, but maybe more.
Okay, fair.
Those feelings have to come from somewhere.
I know. But I mean, it's still fresh. He was betrayed by his ex-girlfriend, who we don't even have a name for, Almost Human. And I would like a name. Because it's annoying. I like the female characters, I feel like, have gotten the short shrift so far. And it's not...
We don't even have any female cop robots, do we?
No, all the MXs are male. What's up with that, America?
Comment on society.
Yeah,
guess so.
the MXs were the prostitutes. The
Oh,
only
yeah.
other ones.
The only other ones were prostitutes, and that's not fair.
Nope.
I'm hoping that we get...
Sexism amongst androids.
Yeah, well, we'll see the world evolve, and hopefully we'll get some of these burning questions answered next week. Zach Wilson, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at @ZachWilson, ThatZachWilson.
All right, and Ryan Hooks.
Hey, you can find me at Twitter, RyanHooks92. Also Instagram, Snapchat, Yahoo.
I still can't believe you want people to Snapchat
I
you.
want to Snapchat on
Strangers?
RyanHooks92.
I'm so curious what you get.
I really want to know what strangers Snapchat Ryan Hooks. You cannot Snapchat me, but you can find me on Twitter at Matt Lieberman. That's MattLieberman. You can also find me here on AfterBuzz TV on the Sons of Anarchy, Sleepy Hollow, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the new Betas after show. If you haven't seen Betas, it's a brand new comedy on Amazon. It is about people launching an app in San Francisco. It's super, super funny. The first 3 episodes are available for free online to anybody. The rest of it is going to be available to Amazon Prime subscribers only. I think you should definitely check it out, and we're going to have the creators on the show for the first episode this Thursday. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We will see you next week.
See you on the iTunes.
Yes.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.